my podcast. I love knitting. I love sewing. I go through phases which one I spend more time on. At the moment it's definitely a knitting phase. And I have recently moved to Poland, which means I no longer have a knitting group or a sewing group that I go to every week. And I really miss sharing all of my creations with people in person. I still have some groups that I'm part of. I'm on Instagram, but I like talking about what I am doing and I get really excited about it. So I thought I would try and do a podcast. So thank you for joining me. And this will just be mostly knitting, I think, but occasionally I might show some sewing that I've done as well. So thanks for coming. You can find me on Instagram as Kirsty Knits and Sews, and on Ravelry as Skirt89. I don't use Ravelry much except for looking for patterns when I have very, very specific parameters, but I will start trying to make project pages and things like that so that that's a more complete look at what I'm knitting. At the moment, it's not very complete. Okay, so the way that I keep track of what I'm knitting, this is a new thing this year and I am loving it, is I bought this book, The Bullet Journal for Knitters 2022. It is designed and illustrated by, I'm going to say this wrong, Hanema Hamsrud, and her Instagram handle is Middlestreak. Now I will put that down below so that you can find it yourself. I just happened upon this on Instagram, thought it looked amazing, ordered a copy for me and my sister, and so glad that I did. I'll just show you a couple of things in it. First of all, each month you have a month and you have a page that tells you, you can write all of your projects, start date, end date, and grams used. It has room for 3 goals each month. 3 goals each month, and then it has space for finished objects, unfinished objects, and total grams used. And then each month also has a picture to colour in based on the key. So you get to decide how much each section is worth. Mine are in 1 hour increments. And then colour in accordingly. And it's just a bit of a month at a glance to see how much knitting you're actually doing. I have also written in, if I've got no knitting done, I've put 0 in. And for months or days that I go above and beyond the 4 hours, which is the top, I also put a number so that I know, let's see that one as well, so that I know how much I've actually done that day. This day, I can tell you I was on holidays and I was sick. 9 hours I knit that day. That is ridiculous. But I was sick. I was just at the point where I could start to do something. I'd not even knit the 2 days prior. Oh no, the day prior I hadn't really knit. And I was starting to feel better. So I knit and I knit a lot and it was amazing. Anyway, so I like having this kind of way to keep track. It also has places at the back for yarn stash and you can make a mark when you've used it. It has notes for everything that you make. You can put it in a different note section here. There's room for pictures or photos or whatever. There's yearly summaries, wish list, yarn tags. I love this part. Needles. I can keep track of exactly what needles I have. If I've got a project going that I know is using a particular type of needle and I'm not sure if I have another one, I just come here first rather than deep diving through my needle stash. It's very helpful and I've used it a couple of times, just even in the past 2 days, to try and make sure that I have what I need before I start. So anyway, this is how I keep track of my projects. I will try and put information from here onto Ravelry so that you guys can see what I'm doing as well. But basically, this is it. So I will use this and show you what I'm working on at the moment. Now I'm not going to go through all of my projects right now because there are some that I haven't touched for a while. So I'm only going to take you through the ones that I'm actively working on. So, actively working on. This is a project bag that I made. So this is just a little bag, has a handle and a zip. And these are the socks that have gotten the most love. It is the 20th today, April 20th. I started these April 15. So these were my Easter weekend socks. I did a lot of knitting on Easter weekend. I have almost a complete pair. So this is the first sock. I don't like my socks super long, so it's just a little one. The pattern, it is the intersection sock. It still has the needle markers, the stitch markers, because I haven't finished the pair yet. You can see the pattern a bit there. So this is the intersection sock from 52 weeks of socks. This was a Christmas present from my sister, who is also a sock knitter, and it has, you guessed it, 52 sock patterns in here. My plan is to knit through all of them. It's a really beautiful book. The photography is lovely. The patterns are well laid out. I've only knit one of them so far, but I understood it. It made sense. But it is just a lovely book to look at as well. It would make a great coffee table book if you didn't have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old who would make, well, probably tear the pages out, to be honest. It doesn't sit on my coffee table. Yeah, I should say I have a husband and 2 kids, a son who's 3 and a daughter who's 10 months old. And so it's not a calm house most of the time. Knitting helps. So yes, this was the first sock. I started it April 14, 6 days ago. This is the second sock. So you can see it is almost a complete pair. I am on the ribbing of the second sock. A couple more hour tops and that will be done. Now, I should say I started knitting socks a year ago. I wanted to start knitting socks about 7 years ago, and a friend gave me a skein of sock yarn and I cast on a pair, and it was a patterned pair and I did not get very far, and then I gave the book away and then it was just doomed to failure. So I frogged them recently and I will reuse the yarn for something else. But the first pair of socks that I started and actually finished was last year. And I had a bit of trouble getting the tension of the ribbing, the cast on edge done, because I was trying cuff down. I was having trouble getting the tension and it was always just so much tighter at the top. So I finally did a toe up sock and it worked, and I think I finally cast off using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off and 1 needle size up on what I'd knit. So I think I knit 2.5 that pair, and so I used a 3 or a 3.5 to cast off. And it finally was a loose enough ribbing that it would work for my feet, my legs. That pair went to my mum. And then the crazy sock lady started Summer Sock Camp 2021. And through that, I knit another 2 pairs of socks, both for me, and I was hooked on socks. And on the top, you can see it has gone a little bit wavy, but that is the sewn bind off tutorial by the crazy sock lady. I'll link it below. It's a YouTube tutorial. And it's a little bit of an uneven edge, but it's great because I can get the stretch that I need to go over my calves. So yes, love it. The yarn, I should say, the yarn that I've used for this one is Vera Yarns Designs. I found her on Instagram, and this is her merino sock high twist, 100% superwash merino. It is 365 meters per 100 gram. So it's 365 meters per 100 grams. So it's a bit less per 100 gram than a lot of sock yarns. This is what I've got left to finish the cuff with. I think it'll be plenty. I'll have a bit of scrap to put into a scrap blanket, my favourite. But the reason that I have so little left is I've actually already taken off a 20 gram mini. My sister and I are swapping advent calendars this year, swapping scraps as advent calendars. And so I wound off a 20 gram mini, sorry Mel, spoilers, of this for her so that I had enough to finish hers advent calendar. So yeah, I love this sock. I love the yarn. I love the colour of this yarn. It's just beautiful. I'll show you the back of the foot, the underside of the foot, so you can see just how the yarn itself works up. It is just beautiful. So yes, very excited. I have a bit more of Very Yarns Designs yarn, so I will grab that at some point. I have tea today in my friend's mug. I got this mug from Empik here in Poland, but you can get it from other places. And I'm drinking black tea with fruit. Yarny z owocami. I am learning Polish. It is not great yet, but I'm getting there. And tea and knitting are two of the ways that I'm learning. Okay, so I've shown you the intersections socks. Now, I like to have just some vanilla knitting going at all times because it's nice that if I'm catching a bus or something, I can pull out some knitting on the bus. This next one is in another bag that I made, I think. Yeah, I've made all the bags that these are in. So this is just another bag, handle inside. I've got some cute hedgehog fabric. I should say the intersection socks I'm using Addy circular needles, 2.5 millimeter. I love Addy circular needles, they are my favourite. The second favourite needles that I have are Xiaogu. Now, the cable on Xiaogu is designed to not keep kinks in it and things like that, but I actually find that sometimes I get a bit more pull between what I'm doing when I'm using Magic Loop because of that. And also the actual needles are made out of something different, and I prefer what the Addy ones are made out of. Can I tell you? The Xiaogu ones are surgical grade stainless steel. The Addy ones are very smooth polished metal. That's what it says. But it doesn't tell me what type of metal. Anyway, I prefer the feel of the Addy, but the Addies that I have are not lace. So you can see these ones, I don't want to pull it out. So these ones are Addy and these ones are the Xiaogu, and you can just see the Xiaogu are lace ones, they're pointy at the end, the Addy ones are not. Which means for normal soft knitting, I much prefer the Addy. When I'm doing shawls or anything that I need points for, I prefer the Xiaogu. The intersection sock is a cable sock, but I'm not using a cable needle. So I probably would have preferred the Xiaogu for that, but I really like the fabric that I'm getting with the Addies. My gauge changes a little between the two. So I like having vanilla knitting going. And the other day I was going to church and on the bus, and I didn't have any needles. So, sorry, any vanilla knitting. So I grabbed some yarn. This one is Zauberball Crazy. It's a 4-ply. It is, let me just double check, 75% superwash, 25% nylon, yep. and this is Tropical Fish colourway. I got this yarn only last week, so very excited to cast it on so quickly. And so I just grabbed some 2.5s because that's what I usually use for sock knitting. But I'm actually going to tear this out because, I mean, I'm pulling that a little bit, but can you see the holes? Yes, you can. That is a very loose knit. And I think what it is the actual yarn. I find this sometimes, it's a 75-25, but the yarn itself feels a bit rougher. I think it's just a bit of a thinner yarn. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip this out. I'm going to start out on 2.25, still using the Gu circulars. And doing a 2.25mm means that I should get a bit of a tighter weave, which will make it better. I mean, this is just massive. Like, not only is it a very loose weave, but it's just huge for anyone's foot. Too big. So I will take that out and start it again. Luckily, I realised early enough that it's no problem. But I love the yarn. It is so pretty. I love how it works up. I love all the colours. Zababall Crazy is a 2-ply. Let's see if you can see this. It's a 2-ply, and so the colour of both plies change throughout, which is why you get such a great look. So I got a few balls of that when I bought this one, and I'm looking forward to knitting them on. The next one I have here, guys, I'm not sure what to do about this. Okay, I'm doing a the Crazy Sock Lady vanilla sock for this one. So it is cuff down. I'm doing it on Xiaogu 2.25 needles. And I'm doing it striped. So this is 2 different balls of yarn. Let me show you them. We have, first of all, White Rainbow. Isn't that beautiful? It's a little bit blown out, but it's actually not too bad. It is basically a white with speckles of colours. And this one is by Sally Ridgway, Designs in Felt and Fibre, and is from Tasmania, Australia. I love it. This was one of the first indie dyed skeins of yarn that I bought. I was living in Australia, getting into sock knitting. I'm from Australia. That's why I was living in Australia. Getting into sock knitting, and I was so scared that someone else was going to buy this skein before me. So I bought it, and I have not looked back. I just, look at the colours in there. It's just so pretty and speckled. Anyway, so it is an 85% Australian merino, 15% nylon, 400 metres to 100 grams. It is hand dyed in Tasmania, and I love it. Now, the thing, I'll show you the second yarn first. This one is called Strawberry Whip, and it is also hand dyed in Tasmania. It's a little bit blown out. It's not quite that bright. This is hand dyed by Daffodil Road Artisan Yarns, also in Tasmania. This is their old label. They've got a new label now. And this is on their 4-ply luxury sock yarn, 75% merino, 25% nylon, 400 metres to 100 grams. Now, these two together, I held them up and I went, yes, perfect, love it. But every time I look at the actual sock, I'm just not convinced. It's not bad. It just seems a little bit lackluster for such beautiful yarns to just have, yeah, I don't know. I started originally with the pink cuff and then to have the whole body in the White Rainbow with pink. And I was going to do a pink heel and toe as well. yeah, I'm just not sure. So I also started in a 2mm because I wanted to just see what the fabric was. I didn't like the 2mm. Like, I hadn't figured out how to get the gauge right for the pattern. So it was going to be too big and too tight a fabric. So I just went back to the 2.5mm. And yeah, I'm just not loving it. The yarns are beautiful. But yeah. So I'm debating whether I either push through. This is the first sock, you can see. I've just kind of stalled. I'm debating whether I push through with this one and just have a pair of stripy socks, because I will wear them, I will like them when they're done, but I'm not enjoying the process. Or do I frog this and keep both skeins of yarn for a future project in here? I think if I frog it, I'm not going to put the two skeins together again. This is the second time I've tried having them together, and so maybe I don't like them together. I don't know. Tell me below what you think I should do. Keep it and push through, or frog it and use the skeins for socks that I will truly love. Anyway. But like I said, I love the yarn. Love, love, love the yarn. Yeah, so I'd really like to have socks that I love as well. And this one is in another bag that I made. I went on a bag making kick recently because I didn't have project bags and I wanted to pass on all the things. And then some really cute, these are echidnas, they're an Australian animal. I searched high and low around Australia to try and get this echidna fabric. It is, I believe, Ruby Star Society, but it was sold out most places. I can't even remember where I ended up finding it, but I was so excited when I did. Anyway, so another project bag I made. Alright, so that so far is 3 pairs of socks. I have another pair of socks here. And this one is in a tiny little bag that I made. It's really too small for a sock bag. It is tiny. It has Heather Ross gnomes on one side and Heather Ross fish on the other, and Anna Maria Horner fabric down the bottom. This one. Oh, and cute little lined fabric inside. Love it. This one is another love-hate relationship. I love the yarn. So let's start there. This yarn, oh, but I do have the label, is a Maximu Yarns, and it's Sea Turtle Reef. It is hand-dyed in Australia on the Morning Peninsula, and it is a 80% superwash merino, 10% nylon, 10% cashmere. It is beautiful to work with. I got 3 skeins of yarns from Maximu Yarns when I bought this one, and caked it up before I had my ball winder. Is that going to... There we go. Look at the colours. It is beautiful. So that's called Sea Turtle Reef. Absolutely love it. The reason I have a love-hate relationship, I really wanted to try 9-inch circulars. So I'm trying 9-inch circulars. But I realised with the way I hold my needles, I can't do 9-inch circular because the needles are not long enough to let me do 9-inch circular. So I normally hold it like this and then use, it's not going to show well, but I usually have the needle coming out here, and so I use this part here to manoeuvre the needle. And I just can't with 9-inch circulars. So I decided what I need to do is try to learn continental knitting. Now I wanted to learn continental knitting anyway. I throw my knitting. I hold the yarn with my right hand and I throw as I'm working. I'm pretty quick at it, I like it, but trying continental is fun. And I usually, when I'm doing stranded, when I'm doing colour work, I will do one hand continental, the other hand throwing. So I wanted to practice as well. I have made it this far with continental. I love the fabric. Look at that. Look at the colours. Absolutely beautiful. So again, I'm just following the Crazy Sock Ladies vanilla sock pattern. I'm still using the magic loop pattern, but obviously amending it for 9-inch circulars as I go. And I'm doing a 2x2 ribbing cuff instead of 1x1, which the pattern calls for. And I'm doing a 40 stitch leg, which is also different, I believe. But I'm following the basic gist. Anyway, this one, I love it. And I love the fabric and I will love the sock. I just don't choose to knit continental. So I've been thinking about whether I try and do 15 minutes on this a day just to get that practice in continental. There's a couple of stranded jumpers that I'm wanting to do soon, particularly the sea glass sweater. I'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, so I'm trying to figure out what I do here. I can't obviously knit throwing on these needles. I could move them onto different needles and finish at magic loop, but I'm not sure what that would do for the tension. And I want to learn continental, so I'll probably just keep going. I am partway through the heel flap, you can see there. So I'll probably just keep going. But anyway, that is that one. And like I said, I love the yarn. But that is one that has been sitting around for a while because it's not a relaxing knit at this point. I like knitting and I like relaxing while I knit. It's just how it goes. Now this next one. This is in another bag I made. Check out how big that bag is. Love this fabric. This is my sweater for the Crazy Cable knit along. I'm just going to have a quick drink. Now, the Crazy Sock Lady. Again, I watch her podcast. I follow her on Instagram. I really enjoy her work, her podcasts. If you haven't checked her out, go check her out. Definitely recommend it. Well, she and Sock Witchery are co-hosting a knit along, and it's the Crazy Cable Sweater knit along. I saw this particular pattern. It's the Honeycomb Aran. I have a photo here. The Honeycomb Aran. It is a free pattern from Patterns. And Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady was thinking of doing this one for her sweater for the knit along. And then she found out that it had some errata, some problems in the pattern, and a few people had trouble doing it. And so she decided for her first serious cabled object not to do it. But I'd already fallen in love with it. And I had 5 balls of this set aside to do a cabled sweater with. I bought this. I knit a cabled sweater for my husband just after we got married. And it was beautiful, but it was too big. People are going with this. I don't gauge swatch. I hate gauge swatching, and I hate the feeling of you losing yarn in gauge swatching. I would much rather use that yarn to make scrappy blankets or make scrappy clothes. And for the most part, if something ends up a bit big, I'll just wear it a bit big. If something ends up a bit small, I'll pass it on to someone who will fit. I'm not usually so I must have this item. I like the process of knitting. I like the process of seeing colours and patterns come together. So I don't really mind if it doesn't end up the way that I want. If I really am sad, then I will buy the yarn again and do it again for myself in the size that I want. Actually, there's a jumper that I finished earlier this year that is now someone's birthday present because it didn't work. I did it and I realised that it was way too big for me. And it wasn't a gauge problem that time. It was exactly within gauge. It's just that the pattern said to do it with so much positive ease that I'd already gone down a size or two on what it said I needed. And still when it was finished, I was like, this is too oversized to be an oversized sweater. It really needs to go to someone who's a few sizes bigger than me. So it is. Anyway, all that to say, I don't gauge swatch. Don't hate me for it. I live with the consequences. And I'm okay with living with the consequences, whether that's tearing something out, ripping something out to start again, or giving away the finished object. Anyway, after I finished the sweater for my husband, which we then gave away because it was way too big, before we gave it away, before we realised just how big it was, I had bought some yarn to make myself a cabled sweater. And this sat there for a while and didn't get worked on. And then I saw the Crazy Sock Lady and Sock Witcheries knit along, and I thought, perfect. And I saw the pattern and I thought, perfect. I love it. Let's do it. So this yarn, I should say, I should have here somewhere. I had 5 balls of it, and it is Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 10-ply cream. Now, these are 200 gram balls. They are 100% wool, and this is machine washable. So it doesn't say that it's superwash, but it is machine washable. It's an Australian brand, Australian yarn. I, again, lived in Australia until recently, so I have mostly Australian yarn still. But I love it. I've made jumpers out of this for me, for other people. It really is a good yarn. And soft. It's a nice one to wear. So this is what I've done so far. Well, this is the back. So I finished the back. It is a free pattern, like I said. It has a raglan sleeve and it is pieced at the end, and I've got the neck stitches on waist yarn up here so that I can keep knitting the collar together once it's pieced, I believe. I haven't read that far in the pattern, but I believe that's what it is. Anyway, it is beautiful. I haven't had any problem with the pattern. I did read some of the concerns that people had on Ravelry before I started doing it. And I have done cables before, and I'm someone who just goes, if it doesn't work, fudge it. I haven't had to fudge it yet. It's making sense. It's working for me. Yeah, it's fine. So that's that one. This is the one of the sleeves. So I've done the back and I've done one sleeve. Obviously it's not together, but you can get a bit of an idea if that's not going to blow out too much. No, it's too blown out, sorry. Yeah, it is beautiful. I'm loving it. The second sleeve, which is where I'm up to in my knitting, I've done this much of the second sleeve. One thing that I will say is I measured the yarn and I thought I had enough, but I think I must have had enough for the size below me, and I was a bit shy for the size that I thought I wanted, and so I decided to risk it, to just knit and see how it goes. Well, I finished the back and decided to do the sleeve next so that I could see if it was going to be finished, and no, I was going to be a little bit shy. But I now live in Poland, so I ordered the yarn and had it sent to my sister, who is going to be sending me a package soon, and she'll include that with it. Which means I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it finished by the end of the Crazy Cabled Sweater Knit Along, because that is meant to finish on the 1st of June. It's currently April 20th. I have the rest of the sleeve and the entire front to do, which, depending on how much knitting time I get, I could do. But I don't know when the yarn's going to get here, and so I don't know if... I guess I could try and finish all the yarn that I have so that when the yarn arrives I can just finish off the front and seam it and block it and put it together and all that. And that's possible I'd get it done. But guys, I have Christmas knitting I need to do. I now live in a country where none of my extended family live, which means Christmas presents need to be done early. So I'm in the middle of Christmas knitting now. Go figure. And that really needs to take priority for the next 2 months. So I don't think I will get the Crazy Cable Sweater finished in time for that. But I will keep posting progress in the Crazy Sock Ladies feed on Ravelry, because that is the... or in Sock Butchery. One of them has the chatter and one has the finished objects. So I will keep going and see how we go. Sorry, my son wanted some more carrot. My son loves vegetables and fruit. There have been times that we have said, no more fruit, eat a biscuit. No more fruit, eat your pizza. Actual phrases that have come out of my mouth. But he traditionally has not liked carrot. So we haven't pushed it. That's fine. If you don't like it, don't want to try it. It is really crunchy and that was a little bit of an off-putter. Anyway, this morning he said, I want a carrot. And we didn't understand it because he's never asked for a carrot before. And then later on this morning he said, I want a carrot, and we still didn't understand. So he took us over to the fridge and he said, open it. And so we opened it. And he said, I want a carrot, and pointed to a carrot. And I went, okay. So cut him up a carrot. I asked him if he wanted in discs or in logs, because that's what we do with cucumber. And he said logs. And so I cut it up into logs and he ate the whole thing. And just then he said, Mum, I want another carrot. I said, okay, do you want it in discs or logs? And he went, discs. So I cut it up into discs and now he's eating it. Who knew? I have one more project, you guys, that I haven't worked on this week, but I did do quite a bit of work on last week when I was on holidays. And I have written down here that I started it on the 18th of March. But I started it on the 18th of March and then I frogged it on the 4th of April. And then I started it again, or I frogged it on the 2nd or 3rd of April, and I started it again with a completely different pattern. So originally, this was going to be the Lunar Cow, which is, I'm pretty sure, a paid for pattern off Ravelry. It's by Paulina P. And I love the cow, but I did not like the way that it was working out with the yarn that I had. Now, I will show you the yarn. I love the yarn. It's all very... You know how sometimes yarn has to be a specific thing, and you've just got to try and find it. Well, this yarn is by another Australian dyer. It is Black Wattle Yarn and Fibre. Is that gonna focus? And this is the... Okay. That Kunzea 4-ply. It's a type of tree, I'm pretty sure, in Australia, or a plant. I still don't know how to say it. So this is 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere. It is not superwashed. It is beautiful. So Black Wattle Yarn has a farm, and they have alpacas on the farm. And so it wouldn't surprise me if that 70% baby alpaca is actually alpaca from their farm. I'm pretty sure that's how they do it. I'm not 100%. So this is called Into Darkness. And that's getting a little bit blown out, but it is beautiful. That's a bit better. It is beautiful. It is a lovely navy blue. It is so soft. And I bought it for a cow because I really don't like scarves. What I find is if I have something on my neck and all of the weight is pulling to the front, I get a headache. If I have a coat on or something and something on the back of my neck and the coat kind of pushes it forward, I get a headache. Like I can't even wear necklaces most of the time because, I don't know, my posture changes. I stand differently and I get a headache. Sometimes it's because of the weight of the necklace, sometimes it's because I'm playing with it, but I don't generally get headaches unless my neck alignment goes off. And one of the things that does that is scarves. So I thought, let's get a cow going that is nice and warm and beautiful. And I loved the Lunar Cow, and so I started doing it. And I wasn't a huge fan of the way that it was working up in this yarn. So this is a fingering weight yarn, but it's very soft. And it's not mohair, but it kind of has that mohair look and feel. beautiful and squishy, and it's all a dark colour, so the pattern of the lunar cow was getting lost in it. It was kind of just becoming a mush, and then I realised that my cast on edge was too tight, so I couldn't actually easily put the cowl on, and I knew that it would sit funny and annoy me, and so I ended up, I was about, I think 30% of the way through, and I frogged it. And then I was trying to figure out what to do, and my sister had been doing a fisherman's rib bolero for her daughter, which she ended up frogging and doing and not fisherman rib, but it was enough to make me think maybe I should do fisherman rib, which is something I've been thinking of for a while. I really want to do the Bits and Bobs blanket. I can't remember who it's by, but it's a fisherman's rib scrappy blanket. I'd love to do it. Anyway, so I got rid of that and started a fisherman ribs. Now I'm still calling it a cowl, but it's actually hopefully going to be more of an infinity scarf, so it will be in the end joined along this edge and hopefully be long enough to wrap around twice. I'm loving it. It is so squishy and soft and beautiful. I wish you guys could reach through and squish it. Sorry, that's getting blown out again. Oh, the sun, it's cloudy and it's still getting blown out. Anyway, it is beautiful. I have a beautiful little teacup here, which is a stitch marker from, I believe, Obsession Yarns, not Obession, hashtag not Obession, that I got as part of the wool show, the big wool show last year that was held online, but in Australia. Yeah, it was a lot of fun going to an online wool show. I'll probably go again this year, even though I can't. Well, it's harder to buy things. Anyway, love it. It's beautiful. Guys, this is a really sad story. I had an infinity scarf. It would have been like a $10 or $15 one, a fast fashion. I can't even remember where I got it from. But I'm pretty sure it was fisherman rib, knitted in the round. This is knitted in the round, by the way. It's fisherman rib in the round. And it was a navy blue. And it went around my head 3 times, and I wore it all the time, sometimes doubled, sometimes tripled. It was so warm and beautiful. And when we were packing up to move to Poland, I looked at it and said, I don't need it, and if I want something like it, I can just knit another one in the future. Well, so many times since I made that decision, I have wanted that scarf, that infinity scarf. And yes, I can knit another one in the future, but this is gonna take forever. One thing about fisherman rib in the round is that you have to change where you're knitting each round. So for fisherman rib, you don't just knit a stitch, you knit into the stitch below the one every second round. So if you're doing it in the flat, you always, every time you turn it over, you knit into the knit stitch, the one you knit below, and then you purl the purl stitch. When you do it in the round, you have to knit into the knit stitch in the one below for one round, and then you have to knit into the purl stitch, the stitch below for the second round, and then knit or purl the alternate stitches depending on what side of the rib you're doing. And it just takes that little bit extra thinking, because rather than just doing the same thing the entire time, I have to stop and think. And so I have to toyed with the idea of taking it apart and just knitting it flat, not quite that big, and still doing an infinity scarf. But I really miss my doubled over one. It was just so comfy. So I'm going to keep going, and even if it ends up being a cowl, but a cowl that way with the nice squish, that's what I get. I mean, I have plenty of yarn at the moment, so I don't think that'll be a problem, but I'll keep going. It is beautiful, seriously. I'm going to say it again. Black wattle yarn and fibre, Kunzea, Kunzea, 4-ply. Beautiful. Absolutely love it. I've had a few of their yarns. They're in Murrumbateman, which is just outside of Canberra, and I was living in Canberra last year, so I never actually got to visit because of COVID and lockdowns, which was very sad. But I did buy a few of the yarns online and I love them. Love them, love them. And that is in, I can tell you, I'm doing that on 3.75 millimeter Chowhu circular needles, and that is in my Anna Green Gable bag. I love tea. I really, really love tea. I said to a friend the other day, would you like any tea or anything tea adjacent? That's how I think. You've got cold drinks, you've got tea, and you've got things that people would drink when someone is drinking tea. Be that hot chocolate or coffee. I'm a tea person. Alright, so that's all the projects that I have at the moment. I will tell you I'm planning to do the sea glass sweater, which is by Wool and Pine Designs. Anything that I've mentioned I'll try and link down below so that you can find them easily. Wool and Pine Designs, I've been following them on Instagram, and their sea glass sweater has exploded. It's a DK weight scrappy jumper. I love it, but I don't usually use DK. Most of what I knit is in 4-ply, and you can do 4-ply held double for this sweater, and I may do that for a little bit, but I've also just moved country, so I didn't have many scraps, and I tagged my sister in the sweater and she also wanted to make it. So what we've done is we've done a swap. We've both bought a few 8-ply yarns that we like, DK yarns that we like, and we've split the skeins and swapped them. So we're going to have 20-25 grams of quite a few colours, as well as whatever we already had in our stash. There were a couple that I have sweater quantities of that I didn't take any off from, but most of them that I had just a bit of DK, I wound off 20 grams or so to give to my sister. And so I sent that off to her yesterday, and once my Vinegar Woolen Mills yarn arrives to her house, she'll send me her scraps. And we are planning to cast that on beginning of August. That is what we're planning with our shipping things in time for the beginning of August. There is a chance that we will start knitting before that if we both get our scraps, or if we can't wait. We do have, it has a non-scrappy collar and cuffs, so we could cast on our collar and start that so that when the scraps arrive we can start, or we could start with the scraps that we already have. I just really want to start the sweater. Anyway, August is when we've decided to start that. So if anyone wants to knit along with us, go for it. We might make up a hashtag or something. But yeah, I'm very excited to start that. And I also mentioned the Bits and Bobs Fisherman Rib Blanket, which I do want to start. But I don't want to start a Fisherman Rib Blanket while I've still got my Fisherman Rib Cowl. Because if I have two things that are the same style, I will gravitate toward the scrappy fun coloured one. And I really want this cowl. I don't need it for this winter, like we're just coming out of the cold weather, but there are still times that I would wear a cowl right now. I'll wear a scarf or something. So I don't think it's going to be finished for this year, but I definitely want it ready for September when the weather cools off. And I have a lot of socks that I'm still knitting. So that is all of my projects. New yarn. Now I will share yarn that I get, that I buy, or that is given to me, like when this parcel comes from my sister, I will share all my fun scraps. I am generally trying not to buy much. If there's a specific project that I'm wanting to do, I will buy some. I'm not going to show all this yarn, but I did just buy up a bunch of Zauber ball and opal sock yarns so that I can knit socks, particularly for men, because the indie dyed ones that I gravitate towards tend to be really pretty colours, like the ruby Yarns Designs one that I showed you earlier. I wouldn't give that to a man. I just wouldn't. I don't think any of the men in my life would wear them. So I've been deliberately trying to buy yarns that are more men appropriate, that the men would wear to work around. So anyway, as I knit them up, you'll see them. But a little bit of crinkling here. I did just put in an order with hobby.pl, HOBBI.pl. I've been slowly finding indie dyers here in Poland. There are quite a few in Germany, but not everyone, even in Germany, ships to Poland. So I've had a few emails with people trying to get yarn and things like that. But hobby.pl ships to Poland. What a surprise. Now, this first one is for a shawl for my husband. Sorry, excuse me. And he knows it's coming. There you go. So this is baby wool, 100% pure wool in the black. I've got 4 balls of that because that's a 50 gram ball. And this one is a gradient. It is also Happy Sheep, but it is magic sock wool. So this is 70% wool, 30% polyamide. This one is 100% wool. And this is to do the Tri-Gradient Shawl by Matthew West. I just finished a Tri-Gradient Shawl by Matthew West, and my husband loved it so much that he asked for one of his own. And anyone out there knows that it is amazing when someone asks you to make them something, especially when it's someone who you want to knit for, and they just... My husband would appreciate anything I knit for him. The only thing I've knit for him so far hasn't fit him and went to someone else. But he's not craving it, and so he doesn't ask for it very often. He's okay if I don't knit for him, and so most of the time I don't knit for him. But when he asked for this specifically, I went straight online to get some more yarn, and they were out. So I put myself on the wait list, and as soon as they told me that it was in stock, I went on and bought it. They still had, I should tell you, this is colour 28, and this is colour 15. But it's, I can't remember, I think it's like sandy something is this colour on the website, and this one is charcoal melange. Melange? Anyway, so that is now ready to go to make a shawl for my husband. We've just moved to Poland, and it's cold here in winter, and so men wear scarves all the time and shawls and whatever else to keep themselves warm. So excited. I also got, this was just a little bit of fun, Hobby has a rewards program. You get points for everything that you spend, and when you get enough points you can buy things. This one, Happy Toes, it's just a rainbow self-striping sock yarn. It's only 50 grams, so I'll do a contrasting heel, toes and cuff to make it last for the full pair of socks. But how much fun is that? Love it. Yay! So this is the skein of yarn, or the ball of yarn I got for my husband's shawl. I got some more because the other thing that Hobby does is if you get enough balls, they'll give you a discount. So for this one, it was 5 balls, you get a discount. And so, because I was buying 4 already, this one essentially was like $2. 5 zloty. I was like, why not? I have some more of this in my stash already. I can use it for some colour work, I can use it for scrappy, whatever. But I know if it's a yarn that I like and I have the option for getting it for such a cheap price, I will get it and add it to my stash. I mean, how many people wouldn't? I can give one person I know who probably wouldn't, but most people I know would go for the bargain. So the last thing that I got from Hobby is cotton. These I got to make dishcloths and what's the word? Dishcloths and oven mitts and a bag, because I grew up with a bag, reusable bags, and here in Poland you get all your produce bags are reusable bags with handles, but I hate having them loose in a drawer, so I'm making a bag for them. All three of these are things that I saw on the Crazy Stock Ladies podcast and have Ravelry patterns for, so I'll link them below. I can't remember the names. I'm watching the Crazy Stock Ladies old podcasts because she usually does one every 2 weeks or so, but I like listening to it while I'm relaxing or knitting, a bit of downtime, so I'm watching old episodes because I only found her last year, so I haven't seen all of her episodes. Yeah, so that's what these are destined for. I just picked a few random colours. So these are Hobby brand Rainbow 8x8 quality 100% cotton, and they're 50 gram balls. They are a DK, and I think all of the patterns request a worsted, but I couldn't find just a straight cotton worsted, and I didn't want an acrylic blend or something or an nylon blend because I'm using it with heat for some of it. So I thought I'd use a DK, adjust the needle size, the pattern, whatever, to match. So pretty. And I mean, it's not the best quality cotton, but for what I'm using it for, I don't mind. It'll do the job. Now the last thing that I got from Hobby, is this. Knitting is my therapy. So I can't tell if that's focusing or not. I don't think it is. Anyway, knitting is my therapy. It's a cute little yarn ball with needles through it. It was on the rewards thing, so I didn't pay for this at all. It was a reward thing. I chose it. I think I got the last one because I went back on the next day and I couldn't see it, so I can't even get the second one. But I thought it was really cute, and I will put it on one of my bags. So that is it. I have another order of just some notions and things coming in about a week, so I might try and show you that then. What I'm trying to do is make it so that all of my project bags have everything that I need to do a project in. I am using a lot of stitch markers for my sweater because I have them marking the back, I have them marking all the increases in the sleeve, and with socks, if it's just measuring how long they are, I'll usually swap them over from one sock to another. But if I just have it there to say this is when I started the heel, this is when I started the whatever, I keep them on both socks. And so I really want at least 11 stitch markers per bag, but if I'm going to use it for a garment, I need more than that. I'd say I've probably used upwards of 50 for my sweater so far, the cabled sweater. So I just want more. So I've ordered some more. Eventually I hope to have scissors and tape measures in each bag as well, so I don't constantly searching for them. I do, next to my knitting station, have this. But what I have next to my knitting area is this little tin. I got this tin from Typo a long time ago, so they probably don't have it. They may have something similar. And what I have in here is just a few random notions. So I've got a pair of scissors. I have some scrap yarn for waste yarn. I have, back from when I used it as a sewing tin, I have some embroidery floss and some embroidery needles. I have a cable needle that I'm not using, not even for my giant cable sweater. I'm doing it cable needle-less. can recommend cable needleless. To do that, I'm using I think they call it a masterclass. It's from the Knitter magazine, which is a UK publication. But I had access to it, readly.com. I think you get a month or two free. And then it's, I don't know, $10 a month or something. So it's about the price of one digital subscription to a magazine, but you have access to all of them, but only for as long as you have the subscription. So I got that, and you have access to back issues as well. So I got that and read a whole lot of back issues of the Knitter, and each magazine, I believe, has this kind of masterclass, and one of them was on knitting cables without a cable needle, and I will just say it makes it so much more relaxing. There's no extra little bit that you're fiddling with. The beginning was very confusing of doing a cable needleless, because the cable needle, it will say, put the first 2 stitches on a cable needle at the front, which means that if you're not using a cable needle, you have to insert your needle into the next 2 stitches on the back so that the ones on the front can pull along. It took a bit of mental gymnastics to get there. Now I'm loving it. On the second sleeve, I don't think I've used the pattern except for the setup row of the first sleeve and the second sleeve. Other than that, I don't think I've used the pattern for the actual cable sections since maybe halfway up the back. Once you figure out what the repeats are, it's pretty simple to do, and without a cable needle, so simple, so relaxing, because I'm not constantly checking a pattern, I'm not constantly doing anything. Can recommend. So right, I have the cable needle. I bought it to do that jumper, and I haven't used it at all because I've been using this masterclass from the Knitter. Yeah. So right, they are my projects at the moment. That is my stash enhancement for the moment. I love knitting. At the moment, I'm getting usually 2 hours a day-ish to knit, whether that's on public transport or after the kids have gone to bed. Very occasionally, both kids will have a nap at the same time or something. There are a lot of other things that we are doing at the moment, including learning Polish, so it is nice. But this morning, I figured out a way. I got up an hour earlier than I normally do this morning because my son woke me up, and I thought it was 7 o'clock. And so I woke up and I was like, okay, I've got to be up. And then I went into his room and realised it was only 6 o'clock. And so I made him go back to sleep because he has to stay in his room until 7. But I was like, look, I'm awake. And I've been struggling the last couple of days with not having time to myself and just getting frustrated really easily. And I haven't been doing my preferred normal routine because it's really hard to do that with kids. And so I came downstairs and I spent some time reading the Bible and praying and focusing on God, and then I did some knitting, but I knew that I wanted to focus on Polish today, and I knew that I wouldn't necessarily have much time to do it with the kids. So what I did was I looked up some knitting podcasts in Polish, and there aren't many, at least not that I found, but I watched 2. So for about an hour before the kids got up, I watched 2 knitting podcasts in Polish, and I learnt some new words, and I put some words that I knew into context, and I realised it's great because one of the things I've been learning is about items of clothing: czapka, hat, skarpetki, socks, and they spoke about them because they were knitting them. So I'm actually practicing the vocab that I'm learning as well, so that's very exciting. I didn't understand most of what they were saying. If they weren't holding up an item, it was very difficult to follow. But part of the thing with Polish is learning to hear the individual words. And definitely the second podcast, because that was the 40-minute one. By the time I was about halfway through, I was able to understand the words she was saying, even if I didn't know the meaning of them. And so that was really encouraging. And I was occasionally looking up words on Google, things like that. But it was good because she didn't slow down talking, but it sounded like she did because I was understanding that much better. So yeah, that's one of the things that I will try and do more. There are movies that I love that are in Polish and I could watch them in Polish, but I find I tend to switch off because I already know what's going on. In a knitting podcast, I found I was much more attentive because I didn't know what she was saying, and I wanted to know what she was saying because she was talking about knitting. Yeah, so anyway, thank you for joining me today. I love talking about knitting, so thank you for joining me. Thank you for being part of this. If you want to hear more about my adventures and see how these projects go, please subscribe below. And yeah, I will see you. I'm not sure when I'll do the next one, but if you subscribe, you will get a notification when I do. And I will put it on my Instagram as well. So if you want to follow me on Instagram and be notified of when it comes up, that'll happen as well. Thank you very much. Bye.